Alright, what is up, guys? Start off the live stream here. Let's see. And yeah, looks like we are in fact live. What's up, guys? Ryan from Elevate Security here. Now, if you watched my live stream last week, I do apologize. I realized later on that we've actually done the Devil Box on these live hacking live streams a few months ago. Yeah, I'm really losing track of what I've done and what I haven't done so far. So I don't want to like duplicate content, at least not this soon, right? So we can go ahead and look at another box. I thought that box seemed familiar when I was doing that, but I guess a lot of new people started watching the channel, so no one really said anything that I've already done this. But yeah, I've already done the Devil Box. If you check out some of the previous live streams, I believe we've went through the entire thing start to finish. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. But yeah, we'll see. We'll just keep going down the line here, see what else we got going on. All right, Beep is another potential box. This one for sure we have not done before. It is a Linux box. I would say let's go ahead and try it. Anyways, someone's working on the Devil Box. Someone else has it locked right now. So we can try the Beep box. I've never attempted this one. So yeah, let's go ahead and give that one a shot. So as usual here, I'm gonna go ahead and start with the VPN script just to get us connected to the network. And we'll open up a new terminal and we'll do an initial scan. And this will be on the Beep box with the IP address of 10.10.10.7. Hopefully it's come online at this point. I mean, it says it has here, but we'll see what's going on here. Yeah, okay. We ran that a little bit too fast, so we'll give it a second. Let me just make sure that I'm connected to the network. And yeah, I see my IP address down here, so that should be good. Let's go ahead and ping it just for good measure. And yeah, so this isn't accessible yet, and there we go. Now it is. So now it's up and running. So let's go ahead and rerun this on Beep 10.10.10.7. And yeah, now it looks like it's going. While that is in motion, we are going to pull up the next thing. Hey man, what's up, Tony? It's a new name. I don't think I've seen you in here before. Welcome. So yeah, I'm glad you guys are enjoying the content so far. I'm trying to see. We just started up a new box here in this one. Okay, so the reason that I'm getting this is that I'm listening on for Burp, but I don't have Burp running. So let me just turn my proxy off for now. And it looks like well, hang on. I think that defaulted to HTTPS. Let's try HTTP. I'm not sure why it's forcing there. Interesting. All right. So we will accept risk. This is just saying that because we don't have our cert set up. And looks like this is an Elastic's login page here. So the first thing that I would do if I see something like this, other than like looking at the page source, I would look at vulnerabilities for Elastics, right? Because there's some free information we have here, so we could say, may as well search on it, right? So Elastics vulnerability, something like that. You can Google, and I think I typed that wrong, but. And right away you see a number of exploits, it looks like. Even something on exploit DB as well. That's somewhere we could check also using searchsploit. And when I look at these exploits, I'm looking to see, okay, does it require credentials or is it unauthenticated? Obviously, this is really lucrative here for us in the CTF type scenario. Code execution is always like the ideal thing that you're looking for. So now I'm just trying to get a little bit more info on it. From what I can tell here, it looks like it is an unauthenticated exploit. So this is a potential exploit we could use here. But we don't exactly know what version of Elastix is running. Now, with our page source here, there's a chance sometimes that the page source will disclose the version. In this case, doesn't look like it does. I don't see any info about the versioning here. We don't want to just blindly throw things at the system if we can help it, so we want to try to do a little bit more enumeration first, but definitely making a mental note of this exploit here, because this may very well be what we can use. And I guess this kind of gives this away, right? Well, I wish I didn't accidentally read that, because this must be like a forum post where someone already did a lot of enumeration and they found the version that is running, which if it is that version, then this exploit shouldn't work, because this exploit is for 2.10 and 2.2. Well, it could, if it's, I don't know, it seems to be between the two, right? 2.2. No, maybe this is more, I don't know if this counts as like a 2.10 or a 2.1. So it's a little confusing there. Potentially could work. But I don't want to spoil too much of this from that type of stuff. But I always do Google it, and just doing this step alone is extremely helpful on OSCP. A lot of boxes that I've rooted on the labs and the exams just came from doing searches like this, right? And let's see, this is still running. Interesting. So another thing we can do, just try for like a default credentials like admin or something like that, or even admin password. Just some quick and easy. The low-hanging fruit is always something good to check for early on. And then another thing is we can use like a dirbuster or something on this to look for some hidden subdirectories. Hey, what's up, Akash? So yeah, in this case, the scan is taking quite a while. Yeah, we can run dirsearch, GoBuster, dirbuster, literally whatever tool you prefer. This one, it looks like it is running on HTTPS, so we might have to say ignore the certificate, 'cause we might get some like certificate errors or something like that. Let's go ahead and fire up our script here to get our tmux shell going. And so now that we got this nice little shell here, we can just run our default script on it. So we got the subdirs script here that I created just to run default GoBuster, but it probably is going to fail on me, I'm thinking, because of the HTTPS part. So we probably need to run this manually. We'll just go ahead and do this. This is the beep box. This is a Linux box. Looks like it's running Elastix, which I'm not too familiar with. I think that might be for networking, like network devices. I'm not exactly sure though. Is this once you have a shell escalate to root? So is this, no, this is a reverse shell initially. It looks like they're in this one, which I don't know that this is going to be the vulnerability, because it's calling out these versions, right? and it's looking like we have 2.8. So let's go ahead. Also, we can do search exploit, which we're gonna see the one we just saw there, but maybe some others that are gonna be interesting for us. This was the one we were looking at initially. This is under 2.5, right? So that probably wouldn't apply here. And yeah, I don't think these would. But just to get our recon going in tandem, we can do something like this. And well, I won't specify extensions because we're not quite sure yet, but this is going to be HTTPS, it looks like, and there might be some additional command to ignore certificate, but we'll just try it for now, and we'll see what it does. And we'll put this in hack the box, beep, and we'll call this root because we're running on the root directory of the web server. Did we not? We didn't do -w. Okay. We got to do -w, and then that's where we pass it the word list here. And we also missed another one, it looks like. We didn't do -u. I'm missing a lot of flags here. Very verbose command. That's why I scripted it out initially. So yeah, it's going to give us a certificate error. Let's just see how we get around that. Maybe that's not something they added to it yet. In that case, we could maybe use like a different tool on this. No TLS, is that a thing? No TLS validation. Okay, yeah. -K. This is the shorthand for that. I don't know if it matters where in the command it is, but we'll try it like here. Okay. Add that back in. I'm not sure how that got missing, but there we go. -K, ignore the certificate error. Looks like we do have some pretty interesting looking directories here, though it gave us 301, which is a redirect, so we don't know if we'll actually have access to these. Let's try, let's just go down the line and try some of these different ones here. There was a help. Interesting. So this might be something to come back to later. There's quite a lot of folders in here that we have access to. What's in security, just really quick? Looks like the language on this has been switched to Spanish, it looks like. But yeah, this is definitely some potentially interesting stuff that we can come back to. Yeah, this is a program for like networking stuff. So there might be some SNMP running on here, right? If it's using that, it normally stands to reason that there's some SNMP. Let's see, the initial scan has completed. It's currently running the full. But when it runs the UDP, that's when we'll see potentially SNMP or whatever. That's why it took a while to run. There's quite a bit of ports that are open here. And now we do have SNMTP, which is the email service running on port 25. And if you see here, our default scripts identified that the verify command is enabled. So if you've seen my previous videos on how to enumerate SMTP, if not, I recommend it. We can actually use this to, well, combined with other vulnerabilities, we could get a shell with this. But the more common use case of this is to be able to kind of brute force the users on the underlying operating system, right? Like the email accounts, basically. So you maybe find like local users on the system, which could come into play at some point. Looks like this is running CentOS, just based off of the Apache. I suppose the default scripts knows that based off this version of Apache that it's CentOS. That's what I'm guessing here. So yeah, it redirects you to HTTPS essentially here, as we saw manually when we went there. And then this is more email stuff. Got RPC bind running. Maybe there's some run some commands on that, perhaps. Do some enumeration. Wonder if there's like an NTFS share. And that's interesting that MySQL is actually open to the internet. Normally, this will just listen on the local host. So definitely something. Oh, okay, here we go. This is always very interesting when you see another hidden web server, kind of hidden, right? Because it's on a high port there, on port 10,000, kind of non-standard there. But this is Webmin. And I remember this actually, funny enough. I remember this from OSCP where I exploited a Webmin server in order to get a shell on one of the systems. So let's look up Webmin vulnerability. So it could be that this thing was a rabbit hole, right? While we did see code execution exploits for that, we didn't see anything specifically for the version that we suspect is running, right? Yeah, so it looks like there's some backdoor code execution on this, perhaps. So, okay, CGI. This is a running the CGI server or whatever. There's a lot of vulnerabilities with CGI that you can do. A lot of exploits, rather. Yeah, this is looking pretty lucrative here. This Webmin thing, that might be what we end up exploiting, but let's keep looking here. Change my DPI up a little bit higher. That's better. So we can also, while we have this going on over here, let's go ahead and name my windows so I don't get too disorganized here. Oh, hey, what's up, Amador? Sorry if I didn't see you earlier. But yeah, let's take a look. We'll do search exploits this time for Webmin. And we need to try to find out what version is running here, because there have been historically a number of vulnerabilities here, including even a Metasploit module for code execution. And then looks like a non-Metasploit one here, right? Yeah. A bash script here on a slightly higher version. So we want to find out what version of Webmin is running. So let's just go ahead and browse to it and see what it looks like. So we'll just say port 10,000. And it looks like, oops, Go back. Not sure what happened there. We got to tell it to ignore the certificate error once again. And yeah, looks like there is a login portal here, which looks very 1999 with it, I must say. So no default. Well, we can look at, here's another thing that's normally good to do. And I should have done this with the Elastics one as well, but we can say like webmin default credentials. Sometimes we'll find like default credentials, and if they're lazy sysadmins, they didn't change it. Login default admin. Yeah, admin, I suppose is what it's saying, which is what we tried, and that didn't work. So here I'm seeing root. Let's see. Okay, you should be able to log in as root using the same password as the root Unix user on our Linux system. So yeah, we won't know the password for root in this case, right? So let's just go ahead for good measure and do that on Elastics as well. Do I come every day? No, I do these on Wednesday and Friday. Every Wednesday and Friday during this hour time slot. So if you're on Eastern time, it'd be 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesday and Friday. That's my schedule for now. I will say that on the 18th, which is next week Friday, I think, that's when I'll be going on vacation, so I won't be here. So I'll be putting a temporary pause on the live streams. I don't know why I can't click right now. I can use my keyboard, interestingly enough. I might have to restart my VM. This happens every live stream too. But yeah, this is the nature of VMs for sure. That is the downside to it. We'll just go ahead and take our, usually it's always near the halfway part of the stream. It's kind of like our intermission, like when the VM fails me. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and restart. No big deal there. But yeah, we do the live streams every Wednesday and Friday. Honestly, I need to get that out. I need to get that message out there a bit better. I'm going to work with my graphic designer and get the schedule on my YouTube channel, like a nice graphic of it so you guys can see it and new people can see it as well. Because I think a lot of people don't know that I do these live streams, or they don't know like what time I'm doing them. I changed around the times a few times because of scheduling issues. But yeah. But yeah, once I go out of town on the 18th, I won't be back till January. But when January starts up again, we'll be right back at it. And I'll make sure that the message gets out. But yeah, we do these. We just kind of work through some CTFs so you can see. Normally, like they're boxes that I'm doing for the first time. So you can kind of see my methodology. Combine that with your methodology, and maybe you have you can see ways that you could do things differently, or even suggest ways I can do things differently. So that's the kind of idea with this. When I first started learning this stuff, I really wish that I could see someone do the boxes live, because I watched a lot of videos of people doing walkthroughs on CTFs and stuff to prepare for OSCP. But I never got to see someone do it live, so I thought that would be like really cool content. Basically the kind of content that I wanted to see is what I'm making. But yeah, we'll go ahead and start up the VPN again. Yeah, I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, I've been making a video a day, I believe, since July. I had a few videos in June, and I think I took a slight break, but since July, we've been going daily. So, yeah, I plan on continuing making the daily content for you guys. Yeah, live is pretty cool. And it's good practice for me, too, to do these as I try to skill up myself. So, yeah, I think it's just good across the board. But we will go ahead and relaunch that shell for the beatbox. And let me just check that we are able to connect to this server. We are. So yeah, all right, we're good. We're pretty much back running again. But what I was going to do before it threw me off here was I want to search default credentials for Elastics, because that is something that we did not check for. And it's always a good idea when you see these login portals and you know what vendor the software is by. Just check to see what the default credentials are, because this is even something that, oh yeah, here we go. This is a potential thing here. The reason this is so good is that this is something that you even can find in real world engagements. You'd be surprised how many times sysadmins forget to change or too lazy to change the password from the default, right? So this is a pretty old technology though. As you see, the forums here are 2008. And even if you look at the banner on the page, not this one, but on the Elastics, you see that it's been around since 2006. Looks like it is still maintained. You see the 2020 here. But it means there is a potential chance here. There's a lot of potential default passwords here. So we can throw a few different ones at it. Now, what we could do, because there's a lot of passwords here, but there's not hundreds or thousands, we can go ahead and do this with the community edition of Burp Suite. It'd be just fine. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on this here, and like my proxy basically, to connect to Burp Suite. And I'm just going to fire up that tool. Whoops, what happened there? I think I chose something I didn't mean to. Let's try that again. So we're going to capture the request here, like the login request to this Elastic server. And I'll show you some basic brute forcing using Burp Suite. We'll turn intercept off for right now. And if we go to this login page, we just type admin admin. Obviously we know this isn't going to work, but the point here is that let's see here. The point here is we're trying to capture the login request. So let's see if we grab that. So normally login requests are HTTP post requests. So that's what we see here. And yeah, here's our login request. So we're going to do Control R. We're going to send that to the repeater. Actually, Control I is what I should have done. Send it to intruder instead. And on positions here, we're just going to hit clear and clear all these out, because what we want to fuzz on is this value right here, the password input underscore pass parameter. So we're going to add that as our payload position. We'll use sniper. It's perfect for this type of attack. And now we can build a list from these potential passwords here, right? We're just going to grab all this. We'll iron this out here in a second. Let's go ahead and make a directory for exploits. And we'll call this file Elastics passwords. And we'll just start pasting this stuff in. And now we can kind of go through it. Obviously, we know that the admin stuff did not work. I don't know that we tried password. We might have. But I'm not sure what that is. Okay, he's just calling out the different versions here, right? The default credentials for different versions. Yeah, we'll try that my password. That seems to be a common occurrence. And we won't worry about that. So this isn't going to be the most practical because we don't have that many potential passwords here, but I want to kind of show you the idea, right? Because in a more practical scenario, you'd have a lot more than this. But we can save this as a file, or we could just copy this, right? Either way. In this case, we'll just save this as a file, Elastic's passwords. And then so when we come back here, we can actually load that in. So if I go here, hack the box, beep, and exploits Elastic's passwords, and then it loads it in here, right? Now, basically what this is going to do is when we went to our positions here, it's going to inject this, each line into here, right? So each payload is going to try it against the admin user. And we'll see the responses back, and we'll see if any of them potentially work for the login, right? So that's pretty much all you need to do this. So just click here to start the attack. Now it's going to say, hey, you had the community edition, so you're going to be throttled, but it doesn't really matter when you have a short number of payloads, when you don't have that many payloads. And based off of this, it looks like none of these worked. Reason I say that is they're all the same length. But if you drill down into them, let me make this a little bigger here, you can look at the response and you can see, well, when you fail login on this, what happens? I think it just basically just goes back to the same page. So there's nothing to really say it failed because there's no HTML that would indicate that. But you would just be on the same page, right? And the fact that they all have the same length mean they're definitely all displaying the same page. So you know that none of these ones are the password. So most likely it's not using any kind of default credentials. But that's a low-hanging fruit thing that's always good to check for. So the low-hanging fruit doesn't work, so then you drill down into, a little bit more digging, a little bit more enumeration, right? Let's go ahead and go back to the Nmap scan. Right, that failed. Let's see how far that went, right? Hopefully it finished the UDP. Maybe it didn't. I would be very interested to see if there's some SNMP running. It didn't, which is okay. We're just going to go ahead and run that manually. So the way we're going to do that is with the su command, and that specifies to run a UDP scan. So we do nmap su, it's like a lowercase s and a capital U, and we can also do -v for verbose because UDP takes a lot longer. Just by its nature, it takes a lot longer to scan UDP than TCP. So when you run it with the -v for verbose flag, as it finds open ports, it'll show you right away. You don't have to wait till it's completely done. So that's the advantage of running it with that. And then we'll do this to save it to a file, which we'll just call this one UDP. And then lastly, of course, we pass it the IP address that we're targeting here, 10.10.10.7 in this case. So we'll let that run for a bit. And yeah, while it's doing that, we can go back to this webmin stuff. I just want to make sure we didn't miss out on the potential default credentials on this Elastic server. And so now that we have that covered, let's go back here. And so I'm really thinking there's potentially something to this, right? On the OSCP, I'll tell you this. On the OSCP, there's been a lot of times where I have exploited CGI stuff, which is something gateway interface. I forget what it's called. You know what? Let's learn together, shall we? What is CGI? Oh, it's probably going to talk about movies and stuff. Yeah, computer-generated graphics. What is a CGI server? Common gateway interface. So they basically can execute programs like console applications and command line interface stuff. So that should tip you off right there. And this is good that I'm showing you this, because this is the kind of extra research that OSCP expects you to do. A lot of this stuff, they don't expect you to know it, but they want to teach you how to learn stuff that you don't know, how to like look up stuff and how to dig for stuff, right? So what I'm thinking when I see like, okay, this is used for web servers to execute programs like console applications and command line interface programs, what comes to mind to me is, okay, if you have command line interface programs on a web server, if someone can exploit that, then they have access to running commands on the underlying OS, right? So that's a pretty big potential security problem if there's a vulnerability. And since we are doing a CTF, this could very well be the pathway in, right? So very lucrative to exploit a CGI interface or CGI server, whatever you want to call it. So now that we know basically what's going on with the CGI thing and not computer generated graphics, we can try to find more info on this, right? Let's do a control U. This is always really good to do, just in case there's some good information on like versioning, which in this case, once again, we do not see any info on what version of Webmin it is. That really matters, right? Another thing we can look for, we could even Google something like Webmin common directories, in addition to running our typical dir search or GoBuster or whatever we prefer to use. And you can even, like, this is something that I would do on a real world assessment, like when I'm actually pen testing on the job, is look at like documentation if it's like a third party software, right? And their documentation is just out there on the internet. I'm not really going to go too deep into this on this stream here, but because this is like a very long and boring side of hacking, but yeah, just like really just sifting through some documentation sometimes and getting to understand the technology you're working with so that you can break it is sometimes necessary on the job. So can look for the exploits, of course. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of stuff for like 1.8, 1.9, stuff like that. A CGI backdoor, which I'm not going to just point and click Metasploit at it, but we can look at this and see what's going on with it at least, you know? So apparently there's a backdoor put in these versions, right? We want to try to figure out what version it is, if at all possible. Sometimes you won't have any way of knowing what version, but it's definitely looking like for these versions, right? It's an unauthenticated, just straight up backdoor exploit. Password change.cgi. Let's see if we can access this, right? Here's a way you can take a Metasploit exploit and not even touch Metasploit and maybe get some value out of it, right? I don't know if this is going to work, but let's take a look. Let's see if this is something that is accessible to us. I have a lot of windows going on here, but maybe we need to be logged in for the password change functionality, but we'll see. Linked from an unknown URL. It didn't say it didn't exist. Outside the Webmin server. So maybe we will need to log in normally first. Maybe we'll need some kind of credentials to this thing. So it looks like on the Linux server in the Webmin config, that's where this security measure is enabled. And it's preventing us from just going here directly, right? It expects us to get here from a particular page that's probably behind authentication. So that's one thing it's looking like. For good measure, we can check just to see once again if there's anything here. Doesn't look like there is. Let me start closing out some of these windows I'm not really using. This is one I pulled up earlier. Basically, yeah, saying this for 1.920. But let's just take a look back here at Nmap. And yeah, perhaps no SNMP. But while I do that, I can look at what it found on that full. I don't know that the full completed necessarily, but let's just take a look at it. There was a lot of ports open on this box, a lot of potential things. If it does come down, yeah, it didn't finish the full. But if it does come down to a matter of we need credentials, then we might very well be able to find that through another protocol here, just enumerating it. And there's a lot of email stuff going on. It looks like another email thing running right here. IMAP and POP3. Ah, we do see miniserve 1570. Maybe another thing to do a little bit of enumeration on. I don't know how that minimized on me, but here we go. So a lot of hacking, just comes down to enumeration. Enumeration is like the most important part. It's not that flashy, it's not that cool, but this is how you end up getting to the good stuff a lot of times. You can check the CVE details on it. Nothing particular. I believe this is like the, basically like the Webmin equivalent to Apache. It's like the web server that runs the Webmin service. It runs the Webmin basically it runs Webmin. Some brute force command execution. That's another thing. These CGI things are written in Perl, I believe. So let's see, what versions, does it say what versions this exploits? Not seeing too much info on this. Now, did we, I don't know that we did this. Did we look it up on SearchSploit? Maybe we did. Let's just look that up really quick. So yeah, it really comes down to the version that's running here, but a lot of code execution, even some file disclosure, so maybe perhaps some LFI. Yeah, unauthenticated, which that's probably the backdoor that we saw earlier. So a lot of potential things. So let's see. If we go back to this here. Yeah, if we knew exactly the versions, it'd be a little bit easier because there's a number of potential options. We're not exactly sure which one it is. Let's check my bad. Now, there is always the chance that it is running a more up-to-date version that isn't vulnerable to any of this stuff. And this is, in fact, the rabbit hole. So this is a good one, pretty similar to a lot of the boxes you'll probably encounter on the OSCP, right? Because there's a lot of potential rabbit holes out there. I mean, we might even want to go back to just thinking here, we might want to go back to the Elastic's box and just look at the vulns there, because if there's some kind of low-hanging fruit vulnerability, so when it comes to like exploits and stuff like that, my approach, Samdeva, or Simdeva, or I'm sorry if I don't know how to pronounce your name. I'll call you Techno. Hey, Techno. Yeah, this is what this channel is about. We're doing a lot of ethical hacking. That's what we cover here. So, yeah, there'll be a lot of videos where we do this, whether it's live, like on these live streams, or if it's like a pre-recorded video showing you how to do various hands-on offensive security techniques, or even talking about the industry. So, yep, that's pretty much what we do here. Let's check this Elastic stuff, right? Because what I was saying is the way that I approach exploits, the way you would even approach it on a job, in my opinion, the best mindset on it is that you want to try, like when you can't determine the version, what you want to do is you want to you can run the exploits that, you want to prioritize running the exploits that are the least intrusive, right? Like the ones that, if you guess wrong, it's not going to bring anything down. The less invasive ones, if you will. So let me just look up again what kind of vulnerabilities were on this Elastics thing. It looks like a lot of the Webmin stuff is what I would say pretty intrusive, in the sense of like it could bring the service down. Obviously, this is a CTF. It doesn't matter about bringing services down, but you want to think like an actual hacker, right? You don't want to just be script kiddie with it and just throw random exploits, right? So, for example, just stepping through this, if there's some kind of backdoor exploitation that could potentially bring stuff down if you're wrong, any kind of like code execution stuff is generally more intrusive, right? So looking through here, like this code execution potentially could bring down the service. But, LFI, something like LFI, probably not going to bring down the service. Now it can, of course it can, but a little bit lower chance. So if we're going to start somewhere, I'd say let's start there. Even though someone said it was running 2.8, we don't know that for sure. We're just taking their word for it. We never saw that anywhere looking around, doing our recon so far. So we'll still assume we don't know the version. So we can potentially run something like this. What we can do is just take this URI here. Well, actually, they have an actual script to do it for us. We might need to modify it. But let's look for 37637. So the way I would do that is just going back to my search exploit. Uh, 37637. We'll find that one. We'll grab it with search exploit-m for mirror. We'll mirror it. And what we're going to do is We're actually going to move this into exploits. And while we're at it, we'll rename it as well. We'll call it elastics underscore LFI dot Perl. This is a Perl script. And I think we have Perl on the system. Let's check with the which command, see if it's in our path. And it is. Let's try to run this without any parameters for now, and we'll see if we might be missing anything. Looks like there's some issues with the script, perhaps with how it was copied over. But since it is something as simple as an LFI, let's try to actually just take this part. This is what I was going to do originally. Just take this URI here and paste it in and see. This is for elastics, so let's go back to there. And where were we before? Getting lost in all this stuff. Oh, okay, maybe this is the full thing. I don't know that this is going to be an accessible page, but let's try this out with this query. Ah, looks like it is perhaps. Because we're looking at a configuration file, right? That's what this is, etsy.amportal.conf, right? Let's look at Etsy password instead and see if we can view that. And we can. And just like that, we have LFI on the box, which by itself isn't a huge deal. But combined with other, like if we can combine that with some other vulnerabilities, we could get a shell off of that. So we see a user account on the system, Fanis. And here's something interesting to do, right? You can verify this user account. So if we use Netcat to connect to this box on port 25, we can try to verify. We can try to verify Fanis. And yeah, with this 252 here, and like echoing back the name, that means that this is a valid user. Now, if it was not a valid user, we would get a 550 saying recipient address rejected. So we know this is for sure a user account on the system, Fanis. Just got that from the Etsy password file here. So a little bit of enumeration, extra enumeration there. So if we had a way to upload a file onto this system, then we could use LFI to execute that file. So that's a lot of times on like OSCP and stuff, how you would get a shell off of something like this. First, you got to find a way to upload like your script, right? Maybe in the case of this being a PHP, like these are PHP files here. I guess Elastics is a PHP application. So just have a PHP shell that you upload on the system, use LFI to trigger that payload, and you have it connect to your listener. So this is definitely good, but we're going to need to combine it with something to really get a lot of value off it. But another thing that comes to mind, right? This Elastics thing is it's a application to manage network devices, right? So if you can get access to that, it'd be pretty lucrative. We tried a bunch of default credentials. We were not able to get anything. But since we have LFI, it might be in one of the config files, right? Especially if it's like an old service. Like, this thing's been around since 2006. We do not know the version. We can actually find out the version through the use of this LFI. And probably an easier way to work with this LFI, and it's easy to do this because we are using burp, is actually you do it in the repeater. So if we scroll down to the bottom, we can find where we ran these, right? We can control R to send to repeater. And this is a way easier, more readable, see, a lot more readable way to view this. We had it over here, it looked like that, it was all messy. But in the repeater, it's pretty nice. So, if we know the names of the different config files, we might be able to find some credentials. Since it's an older application, if it is an old version, they might not be encrypting their passwords. If we could find that, then we can log in, and depending on the access level of the account that we log in with, we'll see what we can get out of that. You know, we didn't really look too much on that. That looked like a config file we're at initially. To make this easier to read, we'll send this to repeater as well. Why not? Let's see what's here. Oh, looks like there's some accounts here. There's a localhost account, a DB user and password. That's interesting. Also, could be admin here. So AMP111 in this as the password. Let's try that out. So if we go to the login page, all right, that didn't work, but there are more potential ones on here. Oh wait, this is actually commented out, if you notice, see? And that says password anyways, that's not a user. So I think it's admin user with this password, so let's try that. It's taking a little longer, we might have gotten it. Oh, we did. And based off the username admin, this should be an admin account, which that opens up some potential stuff we could do. Yeah, that's a good idea. Though what I suspect is it won't have privileges for it, but that is something we could try. So basically what we would do is we can go into home, Fanis, I think it's IDRSA. I think let me just look on my own one. Or no, SSH, right? .SSH. Yeah. .SSH. And then IDRSA, like that, I believe. Just gonna cross-check that with my own. Yeah, I don't think I have it there, but on mine, but I think that's where it typically is. Yeah, so we just don't have permissions for that. The web server doesn't. But a good thing to check, definitely a low-hanging fruit thing that's quick and easy to check. May as well check it, right? So I like your thinking there, Edward. But yeah, now that we're in here, oh, you know what? This is what I'm thinking, guys. We have LFI, right? and we have admin on this thing, if there's some functionality in here to upload a file, right, to upload a PHP file or something like that, we can then use our LFI to execute it, perhaps. So let's just browse around here like a normal user and see what kind of functionality we can discover. Yep, that's what I did run there. I'll show you. Let me go forward one here. Home Fanis SSH ID RSA. But we don't have access to his, like, we probably don't even have access to anything in his directory, to be honest, because we're running this as the web server, and typically, especially if it's configured correctly, the web server shouldn't have access to anyone's home directory stuff. Looks like there's quite a lot of stuff going on here. Let's take a look at network. This is a lot of how you would attack like a real world server. Is the first thing you want to do is just kind of browse around it like a normal user and just sort of scope out like kind of functionality is going on. Themes a lot of times is where you can get some pretty juicy stuff. I don't know if that's the case with this piece of software though, but typically a good place to look. But it doesn't look like there's too much going on here with the themes. Add-ons and extras, maybe. Backup and restore, maybe. I wonder if we look for maybe Elastic's file upload. Well, someone's talking about uploading a file here. Not sure where he's going to do this. Yeah, normally it's like editing plugins and stuff like that. It's pretty common way. I just need to play around more with the app to see where that is in here. That's all. Just not familiar with this app. Yeah, it could be somewhere in the extensions even. But yeah, since we are a little bit over 7 now, we'll go ahead and end it here. But yeah, I think next time we have a lot of good enumeration to do on this. Oh, look, we got his full name there. Is this his extension? Yeah, we'll dive into this pretty big next time. I think we have a pretty good way forward. So yeah, thank you guys for attending the live stream, and yeah, the comments were pretty good. You guys definitely have some good advice in there, and yeah, I hope you guys are enjoying this live stream stuff so far. I'll be back tomorrow on with a video for you guys. It will be the This Week in Security, so I think I'm going to keep going with that, and just giving you guys a quick short rundown on the current trends in security, the sort of security news, what's going on, and we can have a discussion down in the comments section on that as well. Because yeah, I think it's really good. A lot of people I know are like newer to security, and even if you're in the security field, it's nice to have a condensed version of it, since I'm sifting through a lot of this news stuff anyways, just sort of condensing it for you guys and bringing up the trending topics so you guys know what's going on in the space. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe if you're not already, and hit the like button. It'll help me out and help get this message out to other people, and other people will see the live stream as well, and we'll all grow it together. And I will see you guys in the next video. See ya.